A pregnant woman stands in a grocery aisle. A store manager slaps her. Cameras capture everything. She doesn't scream, doesn't cry, just memorizes his face, then walks out in complete silence. What he doesn't know: she's married to one of California's wealthiest men, and she's not looking for an apology. 3 weeks later, she exposes not just him but 47 buried complaints across 12 locations. Managers who abused customers for years, all protected by corporate settlements and silence. His career destroyed, his reputation shattered, his freedom hanging by a thread. This isn't just about one slap. It's about a woman who turned humiliation into a weapon and dismantled an entire system of abuse. Drop a comment with where you're watching from, because what she does next will restore your faith in justice. Stick around. Saturday afternoon in Riverside Heights, California. Midtown Supermart was chaos. Shopping carts collided. Kids screamed. Checkout lines stretched past the frozen section. Every employee looked one complaint away from quitting. But in aisle 7, something worse was brewing. Naomi Williams moved slowly between the shelves, 8 months pregnant, her cream coat draped carefully over her rounded belly. She wasn't rushing, wasn't panicking, just calm. That calmness? It drove Derek Collins insane. Derek was the store manager, tall, clean-cut, the kind of guy who smiled at corporate and sneered at everyone else. He'd spent 15 years climbing this retail ladder, and he wore his authority like a weapon. Right now, he was watching Naomi from the end of the aisle. His jaw tightened. She reached for a box on the high shelf, stretching carefully, one hand supporting her stomach. Her fingers grazed the edge. The box wobbled. Then it fell. Not just the box, the entire display. 12 cans of soup crashed to the floor, rolling in every direction like metal grenades. The aisle went silent. Shoppers froze mid-reach. A kid stopped crying. Even the distant hum of refrigerators seemed to pause. Naomi looked down at the mess, exhaling slowly. She bent awkward, careful to pick up the first can. "Leave it." Derek's voice cut through the silence like a blade. He was already moving toward her, footsteps sharp against the linoleum. His face was stone, no sympathy, no patience. Naomi straightened, can still in hand. "I'm sorry, I can clean." "You've done enough." His tone wasn't loud, didn't need to be. It dripped with contempt, the kind that made bystanders uncomfortable just hearing it. 3 shoppers pretended to study cereal boxes. One pulled out her phone. Naomi met his eyes, steady, calm. But Derek saw something else, something that made his anger spike. She wasn't afraid. And that was a mistake he'd make her regret. What he didn't know, what nobody in that store knew, was that Naomi Williams had survived far worse than a bully with a name tag. And she never forgot a face. Naomi didn't flinch. She set the can down gently on the shelf. Her hands didn't shake. Her voice didn't waver. "I apologize for the inconvenience." Polite, measured, almost too calm for someone standing in a pool of spilled soup cans while a manager glared daggers. Derek's nostrils flared. Her composure made him angrier. But Naomi had learned long ago, emotion was a currency. Spend it wisely or people would exploit it. She smoothed her cream coat, adjusted the strap of her leather bag, and stepped aside. Her belly made the movement slow, deliberate. She wasn't performing. This was her graceful under pressure. A woman near the bread aisle whispered to her friend, "Why's he so worked up? She's pregnant, for God's sake." Naomi heard it, didn't react. She'd spent 32 years navigating rooms where people underestimated her. Boardrooms, courtrooms, country clubs in Charleston, South Carolina, where her family name meant nothing and her skin color meant everything. She'd learned to read people like sheet music. And Derek? He was playing the oldest tune in the book. Power, contempt, entitlement. She continued down the aisle, picking up her basket. Inside, organic vegetables, herbal tea, imported olive oil. The kind of groceries that whispered money without shouting it. Derek watched her move. His eyes narrowed. "You planning to pay for all that?" Or just knock over more displays? A few shoppers gasped. One actually stopped recording and looked away, second-hand embarrassment written all over his face. Naomi paused, turned slowly. Her expression didn't change, still calm, still poised. But something flickered in her eyes just for a second, something cold, something calculating. "I'll pay," she said softly, "like I always do." Derek snorted. "Sure you will." He turned and walked away, shoulders squared, superiority restored. Naomi stood there for 3 heartbeats. Then she pulled out her phone, not to call anyone, not to post anything, just to check the time. 2:47 p.m. She'd remember that. Because Naomi Williams didn't just survive moments like this. She documented them. And when the time came when she was ready, Derek Collins would learn what it meant to humiliate the wrong woman. Derek Collins wasn't always cruel. He was just good at it. 15 years at Midtown Supermart, started as a stockroom kid in Fresno, worked his way to manager by age 38. Most people saw ambition. Derek called it survival. But somewhere along the climb, something twisted. Maybe it was the divorce. Maybe the bankruptcy scare in 2019. Maybe it was watching younger employees get promoted over him at corporate. Whatever it was, Derek learned to take his frustrations out on people who couldn't fight back. Elderly shoppers who moved too slow, teenagers who asked too many questions, single mothers counting coupons at checkout. And now, a pregnant woman in a cream coat. He stormed toward the employee break room, muttering under his breath. His assistant manager, Tyler, looked up from his coffee. "Everything okay?" Some entitled customer knocked over half the soup section. Derek spat. "Acts like she owns the place." Tyler frowned. "The pregnant lady? She seemed nice." "Nice?" Derek's laugh was sharp. "People like that are never nice. They just know how to act like it." Tyler didn't respond. He'd heard this before. Seen it too. Last month, Derek berated a black teenager for loitering near the magazines. The kid was waiting for his mom. 2 weeks ago, he accused a Latina woman of stealing until the receipt fell out of her purse. Corporate got complaints. Derek always had excuses. Misunderstanding. Just doing my job. Can't be too careful these days. And it worked. Every time. Because Derek knew how to smile during conference calls, knew which jokes to laugh at, knew exactly how much power he could abuse before anyone noticed. He straightened his tie in the break room mirror. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect mask. Outside, Naomi was finishing her shopping, moving slowly, deliberately. Derek watched her through the one-way glass. "She thinks she's better than everyone here," he muttered. Tyler said nothing, because deep down he knew this wouldn't end well. For someone, subscribe before the next confrontation. You won't want to miss what happens when Derek finally crosses the line. Naomi reached for the top shelf again. Aisle 9 this time. Pasta section. The premium, imported kind, tucked way in the back where shorter customers couldn't reach. She stretched slowly, carefully, one hand bracing her lower back, the other extending toward a box of pappardelle. Her fingertips grazed the cardboard. Almost there. Then her foot slipped. Just an inch. Nothing dramatic, but enough. Her elbow clipped the edge of a display tower, one of those unstable promotional stacks that looked impressive but had zero structural integrity. 12 boxes of angel hair pasta tumbled forward. Then the domino effect kicked in. Jars of marinara sauce, cans of tomato paste, a wire rack holding specialty oils. Everything crashed. Glass shattered. Red sauce splattered across white linoleum like a crime scene. The sound echoed through 3 aisles. Naomi froze, hands still outstretched. Her heart hammered, not from fear, from frustration. She'd been so careful. Shoppers turned. Phones came out. Someone laughed nervously. "Oh my God, are you okay?" A woman in yoga pants rushed over. "I'm fine," Naomi said quickly. "Just clumsy. I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize. These displays are ridiculous. I knocked one over last week." But the damage was done. Sauce pooled around Naomi's shoes. Broken glass glittered like accusation. The entire aisle looked like a disaster zone. And from the far end, near the dairy section, Derek saw it. His face went red. Not embarrassment red. Rage red. He dropped the clipboard he was holding. It clattered to the floor. Tyler, still trailing him from the break room, grabbed his arm. "Derek, wait!" Derek yanked free. He was already moving. Long strides, purpose in every step. Naomi saw him coming. Her stomach dropped. Not fear, just recognition. She'd seen that look before, in courtrooms, in boardrooms, in the faces of men who believed power meant permission. Derek stopped 3 feet away. His shadow fell over the wreckage. Over her. Again? His voice was ice. Seriously? Naomi opened her mouth to respond. But Derek wasn't interested in responses. He was interested in making an example. What would you do if someone humiliated you in public? Drop a comment, because what Derek does next will leave you speechless. You think this is funny? Derek's voice cut through the murmurs like a whip crack. Naomi straightened slowly, hands still supporting her belly. I don't think it's funny at all. I apologize. Apologize? Derek stepped closer. Too close. Invading the space pregnant women instinctively protect. You've destroyed 2 displays in 20 minutes. What are you, incompetent? The yoga pants woman gasped. Hey, that's completely… Ma'am, this doesn't concern you. Derek didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed locked on Naomi. A small crowd was forming now. Aisle 9, aisle 8. People abandoning their carts to watch. Tyler appeared at Derek's shoulder. Boss, maybe we should handle this privately? Derek's laugh was ugly. Why? So she can wreck the entire store? Naomi's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed level. I'll pay for the damages, all of it. Oh, you'll pay. Derek crossed his arms. You'll pay, and then you'll leave. We don't need customers like you. Silence dropped like a hammer. Customers like you. 4 words, but everyone heard the subtext. An elderly man near the bread aisle shook his head in disgust. A teenage employee pulled out her phone, already recording. Naomi felt the heat rising in her chest, not embarrassment, but something sharper, cleaner. Anger with a purpose. Customers like me, she repeated softly. And what kind is that exactly? Derek's smile was thin, cruel. The kind who thinks rules don't apply to them. The kind who's 8 months pregnant and trying to buy groceries. Naomi's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. Is that what you mean? The crowd shifted, uncomfortable. Several people were openly recording now. Derek felt it, the shift in power, the eyes on him. And it made him angrier. Don't play victim, he spat. You're careless, entitled, probably used to getting your way because people feel sorry for you. Naomi's hand rested on her belly, protective, deliberate. I'm not asking for pity, she said quietly. I'm asking for basic respect. Derek leaned in. Then maybe you should shop somewhere that wants your business. The teenage employee stopped recording. Not because it was over, because she knew what came next would be worse. Subscribe now. What happens in the next 60 seconds will change everything. Naomi turned to walk away. Not retreating, just done. She'd said her piece, kept her dignity. There was nothing left to prove to a man like Derek Collins. But Derek wasn't done. Hey, he grabbed her arm. I'm not finished talking to you. Naomi stopped, looked down at his hand on her forearm, then up at his face. Let go. 2 words. Quiet. Final. Derek's grip tightened. You don't walk away from me when I'm… Sir. Tyler's voice cracked with urgency. You need to let her go. Right now. But Derek was beyond reason, beyond control. He saw defiance in Naomi's eyes, saw the crowd recording, saw his authority slipping through his fingers like the sauce still pooling on the floor. And something inside him snapped. He released her arm. Then his hand came up fast, open palm, full force, and struck her across the shoulder. Not her face, smart enough to avoid that, but hard enough to make her stumble sideways, Hard enough to make her gasp, hard enough to send a shockwave through every witness in that aisle. The sound echoed. Crack. Naomi caught herself on a shelf. One hand flew to her belly, the other braced against cold metal. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The elderly man dropped his basket. Cans rolled across the floor. The yoga pants woman covered her mouth, eyes wide with horror. Tyler stepped between them, hands raised. Derek, what the hell? But Derek was staring at Naomi, at the way she straightened slowly, at the way her face remained perfectly still. No tears, no screaming, no breakdown. Just cold calculation. She adjusted her coat, smoothed her hair. Her hand trembled just once before she steadied it. Then she looked at Derek, really looked at him. And in that moment, Derek felt something he hadn't felt in 15 years. Fear. Not of her, of what he'd just done, in front of cameras, in front of witnesses. In front of a woman who looked at him like she was memorizing every detail of his face. Naomi picked up her purse from where it had fallen. "Thank you," she said softly. "To no one, to everyone." Then she walked toward the exit. Every phone in that store followed her. Naomi's hands didn't shake until she reached her car. A silver Lexus sedan parked in the far corner of the lot, away from the crowd, away from the chaos. She slid into the driver's seat and closed the door. Then she gripped the steering wheel. Hard. Her shoulder throbbed where Derek's hand had connected. Not pain, she'd felt worse, but the audacity of it. The sheer contempt required to put hands on a pregnant woman in public. She closed her eyes, breathed in through her nose, out through her mouth. The baby kicked, once, twice. "I know," she whispered. "I know." People thought calm meant weak, thought composure meant she didn't feel anything. They were wrong. Naomi felt everything. The humiliation, the rage, the injustice of standing in that aisle while a man half as intelligent treated her like garbage. But emotion without strategy was just noise. And Naomi didn't do noise. She opened her eyes, pulled out her phone. No frantic calls, no tearful texts to friends. She opened her notes app. Incident log, the 9th of November 2024, 2:47 p.m. Location, Midtown Supermart, Riverside Heights, KA. Manager, Derek Collins. Witnesses, minimum 1-2 recorded count. Physical contact, yes, shoulder strike, public space. Injuries, minor bruising likely, fetal distress check needed. She typed quickly, precisely, every detail. His words, his body language, the names of employees who saw it: Tyler, the assistant manager who tried to intervene, the teenage girl who recorded everything. This wasn't therapy. This was evidence. Naomi had spent 6 years as a litigation consultant before marrying Samuel. She knew how cases were built, knew that the difference between justice and failure was often just documentation. People like Derek counted on victims being too shocked, too emotional, too broken, to fight back strategically. But Naomi wasn't broken. She was focused. She saved the note, backed it up to the cloud. Then she started the car. Her phone buzzed. A text from Samuel. "How's grocery shopping going? Need me to pick up anything?" Naomi stared at the message. She could tell him now. Watch him explode. Watch him storm into that store and tear Derek apart with lawyers and money and righteous fury. But that wasn't the play. Not yet. She typed back, "All good. Be home soon. Love you." Then she pulled out of the parking lot. Calm, composed, strategic. What she's planning will destroy him, but only if you stick around to see it unfold. Back inside Midtown Supermart, the silence finally broke. Did that just happen? The yoga pants woman turned to the elderly man. Did he actually? He hit her. The old man's voice shook with anger. "I saw the whole thing. He grabbed her, then he hit her." The teenage employee, Brianna, her name tag read, was still holding her phone up. Her hands trembled. "I got it," she whispered. "All of it, on video." Tyler stood frozen in aisle 9. staring at the mess of broken glass and sauce. His face had gone pale. Derek was in his office now, door closed, blinds drawn. But the damage was spreading. Someone needs to call corporate. A middle-aged man in a business suit pulled out his phone. That was assault. In front of children. "I'm calling the police." The yoga pants woman was already dialing. "He can't just people don't get to." But then she stopped. Because Naomi hadn't called the police, hadn't screamed, hadn't demanded anything. She'd just left. That bothered people more than the slap itself. "Why didn't she fight back?" someone muttered. "Maybe she was scared," another replied. But Brianna knew better. She'd watched Naomi's face after the hit, seen the way her eyes had tracked Derek, the way she'd memorized every detail before walking away. That wasn't fear. That was strategy. "She's planning something," Brianna said quietly. The yoga pants woman frowned. "Planning what?" Brianna didn't answer, just sent the video to her personal email, then her cloud storage, then a backup drive. Because she'd worked retail long enough to know, people like Derek always got away with it. Unless someone kept receipts. Tyler finally moved, walked to Derek's office, knocked once. "Derek, we need to talk." No response. "Derek, there are cameras, witnesses. That woman could—" The door opened. Derek stood there, tie loosened, face flushed. "Could what?" His voice was defensive, sharp. "She's fine, barely touched her." "You hit a pregnant woman." "I moved her." She was being difficult. Tyler stared at him. At least a dozen people recorded it. Derek's jaw tightened. Then a dozen people saw her knocking over displays and causing problems. "I was maintaining order." "That's not what the video shows." "I don't care what the video shows." Derek stepped closer. "I've been here 15 years. She's nobody. This blows over in 2 days." Tyler didn't argue. But as he walked away, he pulled out his own phone. Opened LinkedIn. Started updating his resume. Because he'd seen this movie before. And it never ended well for people standing too close to the villain. Naomi pulled into the driveway of her home in Oakmont Ridge, a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood where houses sat back from the road, protected by privacy hedges and old money discretion. The house was beautiful, not flashy, no golden gates or marble fountains. Just elegance, understated wealth, the kind that whispered instead of shouted. She killed the engine. Sat for a moment in the garage. Her shoulders still ached. She rolled it gently, testing the range of motion. Bruising would show by morning, maybe sooner. Good. Physical evidence mattered in cases like this. She grabbed her purse and walked through the side door into the kitchen. Soft afternoon light filtered through bay windows. Everything was spotless, serene. Samuel wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. Board meeting downtown. Perfect timing. Naomi set her bag on the marble counter and pulled out her phone, opened her contacts, scrolled past friends, past family, stopped on a name, Vanessa Torres, employment attorney. They'd met at a charity gala 3 years ago, stayed in touch. Vanessa specialized in workplace discrimination and civil rights violations. Naomi hesitated, finger hovering over the call button. This was the point of no return. Once she made this call, the wheels would start turning. Investigations, depositions, media attention. Derek Collins would learn what it meant to underestimate someone. But was she ready for that? She thought about the slap, the contempt in his eyes, the way he'd grabbed her arm like she was property. She thought about the other victims, the elderly shoppers, the teenagers, the single mothers Tyler had mentioned. How many people had Derek humiliated before her? How many after, if she did nothing? Naomi pressed call. 3 rings. Vanessa Torres. "Vanessa, it's Naomi Williams. I need your help with something." "Of course, what's going on?" Naomi's voice was steady, calm, clinical. "I was assaulted today, in public, by a store manager. I have witnesses, video evidence, and a pattern of prior complaints I'd like to investigate." Silence on the other end. Then, "Are you safe right now?" "Yes, I'm home." "Do you need medical attention?" I'll schedule a checkup for documentation purposes, but Vanessa, I don't want sympathy. I want strategy. A pause. Then a sound that might have been a smile. I can work with that. Send me everything you have. And Naomi? Yes? Whoever this manager is, he just made the worst mistake of his life. Naomi hung up. Then she walked to the living room window, looked out at the quiet street, the manicured lawns, the peace she'd built for herself. Derek thought he could shatter that. He was wrong. Subscribe, because revenge is a dish best served calculated, and Naomi's just getting started. By Sunday morning, Naomi had built a case file. Not emotional venting, not social media rants. A legal case file. She sat at her home office desk, laptop open, documents spread across polished oak. Her shoulder showed purple bruising, now photographed from 3 angles, time-stamped, stored securely. Vanessa had sent over a checklist. Naomi was working through it methodically. Item 1. Surveillance footage request. Already submitted to Midtown Supermart Corporate. Formal letter. Legal letterhead. They had 48 hours to preserve all recordings from November 9th. Item 2. Witness statements. Brianna had sent her video anonymously through a tip line Vanessa set up. Yoga Pants woman, whose name was Patricia Chen, had already agreed to provide a written statement. The elderly man, George Kirkwood, called that morning, voice shaking with anger. "I'm 73 years old," he'd said. "I've seen a lot, but what that man did, I'll testify anywhere you need me." Item 3. Prior complaints. This was the gold mine. Vanessa's paralegal had filed a public records request. Turned out, Derek had 3 formal HR complaints in the past 2 years. One from a black cashier he'd called lazy in front of customers. One from a Latino stockroom worker he'd accused of theft with 0 evidence. One from a disabled shopper he'd mocked for moving too slowly. All 3 complaints? Quietly settled. Small payouts, non-disclosure agreements. Corporate had protected Derek every time. But Naomi wasn't signing an NDA. Item 4. Medical documentation. Appointment scheduled for Monday. OB/GYN visit. Full examination. Any stress or complications from the incident would be documented. Item 5. Timeline reconstruction. Naomi had mapped every interaction, every word, every witness position. 2:47 p.m. First display knocked over. 2:51 p.m. Derek's initial confrontation. 3:3 p.m. Second. Display destroyed. 3:6 p.m. Public humiliation. 3:8 p.m. Physical assault. She saved everything. Backed it up twice. Then she leaned back in her chair. Derek probably thought she'd forgotten by now. Moved on. Maybe even blamed herself. He didn't understand women like Naomi. Women who turned pain into precision. Women who built weapons out of paperwork. Her phone buzzed. Text from Vanessa. "This is airtight. When do you want to move?" Naomi smiled. Not a happy smile. A hunting smile. "Give me 48 hours. I want him comfortable first." Samuel Hayes came home Monday evening to find Naomi in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. Normal, domestic, peaceful, except for the bruise on her shoulder. He saw it when she reached for the colander. Her sleeve shifted. Purple and yellow spread across her skin like spilled ink. Samuel froze in the doorway. 6'2", sharp suit, the kind of presence that commanded boardrooms. But right now, he looked terrified. "Naomi." His voice cracked. "What happened?" She turned slowly, set down the knife. Saturday, at the grocery store, a manager got physical. Samuel's face went through 5 emotions in 2 seconds. Shock, disbelief, confusion, rage, then something cold and dangerous. "Someone put their hands on you?" "Yes." "While you were pregnant?" "Yes." He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides. Gentle hands on her shoulders, not the bruised one. Eyes searching hers. "Are you okay? Is the baby?" "We're both fine. I saw Dr. Patel this morning. Full checkup. Everything's normal." Samuel exhaled. But the tension didn't leave his body. Who was it? What store? Naomi met his eyes. Midtown Supermart. The manager's name is Derek Collins. Derek Collins. Samuel repeated the name like he was memorizing it. Okay, I'm calling our lawyers. Tonight, we'll have him arrested by morning. No. Samuel blinked. What? I've already hired Vanessa Torres. We're building a case, a real one. Not just criminal charges, I want the pattern exposed. The corporate protection. Everything. Samuel stared at her. Then slowly, understanding dawned. His wife wasn't asking for rescue. She was telling him the plan was already in motion. How long have you been working on this? He asked quietly. Since Saturday. A pause. Then Samuel laughed once, sharp, almost disbelieving. Of course you have. He pulled her close, carefully. Do you need anything from me? Not yet, but when I do, I'll need you visible, influential, connected. You want me to make noise. I want you to be Samuel Hayes, philanthropist, millionaire, board member of half the nonprofits in California. When the time comes, I want Derek Collins to realize exactly who he put his hands on. Samuel pressed his lips to her forehead. He has no idea what's coming, does he? Naomi smiled into his chest. Not even a little. Outside, the sun set over Oakmont Ridge. Quiet, peaceful, beautiful. But underneath that peace, something was building. Something Derek Collins couldn't buy, bully, or charm his way out of. Tuesday morning, 9:47 a.m. Midtown Supermart corporate headquarters in San Francisco received a certified letter. Return address, Torres and Associates, employment law. The receptionist signed for it. Walked it to the legal department. By 10:15 a.m., 3 lawyers were reading it in a conference room. By 10:30 a.m., the VP of Human Resources had been pulled from a meeting. By 11 a.m., phones were ringing. The complaint was 12 pages. Single-spaced, meticulously documented, devastatingly specific. Page 1. Incident summary. Physical assault of pregnant customer by store manager Derek Collins. Date, time, location. Multiple witnesses. Page 2 to 3. Witness statements. Brianna's video stills attached. Patricia Chen's written account. George Kirkwood's testimony. Page 4 to 5. Medical documentation. Bruising photographs. OBGYN report, noting elevated stress markers following physical altercation. Page 6 to 8. Pattern of misconduct. 3 prior HR complaints against Derek Collins. Racial discrimination. False theft accusations. Harassment of disabled customers. Page 9. Corporate liability. Evidence of repeated settlements. NDAs signed. Pattern of protecting Derek despite documented violations. Page 10 to 11. Legal grounds. Assault, battery, discrimination, hostile environment, corporate negligence. Page 12. Demands. Immediate termination of Derek Collins. Full investigation. Policy reforms. Compensatory damages to be determined. And at the bottom, in bold text, plaintiff declines confidential settlement. This matter will proceed publicly unless immediate corrective action is taken. No NDA, no quiet money, no sweeping it under the rug. The VP of HR set down the letter, looked at the lawyers. Who is Naomi Williams? One of the attorneys was already typing on her laptop. Her face went pale. Oh no. What? Naomi Williams, married to Samuel Hayes. Silence. Everyone in that room knew the name Samuel Hayes, philanthropist, board member, the kind of man who had governors on speed dial, the kind of man whose wife you definitely didn't assault in your grocery store. Get Derek Collins on the phone, the VP said quietly. Now. At Midtown Supermart in Riverside Heights, Derek was restocking the cereal aisle. Whistling. He hadn't thought about Saturday in 2 days. Figured the pregnant woman had gone home, cried it out, moved on. People always moved on. His phone buzzed. Corporate number. He answered casually. Collins here. Derek, this is Linda Hernandez from corporate HR. We need you in our offices immediately. Today? I've got inventory. Not today. Right now. A car is being sent to pick you up. Derek frowned. What's this about? Linda's voice was ice. You'll find out when you get here. The line went dead. Derek stood in aisle 3, phone still pressed to his ear. For the first time since Saturday, a small knot of worry formed in his chest. Subscribe before Derek realizes he just destroyed his entire life. The corporate car arrived in 40 minutes. Black sedan, tinted windows, driver who didn't make small talk. Derek sat in the back seat, tie suddenly feeling too tight. He tried calling Tyler, no answer. Tried texting his district supervisor. Read receipt, no reply. The silence was louder than any accusation. The drive to San Francisco took 2 hours. Derek spent them convincing himself this was nothing, maybe a promotion opportunity, maybe they were restructuring management. Maybe. But his hands wouldn't stop sweating. They arrived at corporate headquarters, sleek glass building downtown, views of the Bay Bridge, the kind of place where careers were made. Or ended. Derek was escorted to the 14th floor, conference room C. Linda Hernandez waited inside. Mid-50s, gray suit, expression carved from granite. 2 lawyers flanked her. Neither smiled. Sit down, Mr. Collins. Derek Saturday tried to project confidence. What's this about? Linda slid a folder across the table. Derek opened it. His own face stared back at him. Surveillance photo, from Saturday. Time, stamped. Then another angle, and another. Then witness statements. Then medical photos. Purple bruising, on a woman's shoulder. His stomach dropped. Do you recognize these images? Linda asked. Derek's mouth went dry. There's context here. She was causing problems. She was shopping. She destroyed 2 displays. Accidentally, while 8 months pregnant. Linda's voice was surgical, cold. You grabbed her. Then you struck her. In front of 12 witnesses and multiple cameras. I didn't strike her. We have video, Mr. Collins, we've seen it. Multiple angles. Derek's face flushed. She's making this bigger than it was. She's Naomi Williams, one of the lawyers interrupted. Wife of Samuel Hayes. The name hung in the air like a grenade. Derek blinked. Who? Samuel Hayes, philanthropist. Board member of 15 nonprofits across California. Friends with the mayor, the governor, and half the media outlets in this state. The room tilted. Derek's carefully constructed confidence crumbled like wet cardboard. I didn't know. That's the problem, Mr. Collins. You didn't know. You didn't care. You put your hands on someone because you thought she couldn't fight back. Linda closed the folder. You were wrong. Derek's hands trembled on the conference table. For the first time in 15 years, he had no defense, no excuse, no way out. Linda Hernandez didn't waste time. Effective immediately. You're suspended without pay, pending full investigation. Derek's head snapped up. Suspended? You can't. We can. We are. She pushed a document across the table. Sign this acknowledgement. Derek stared at the paper. His career, his reputation, reduced to corporate letterhead and legal jargon. How long? Until the investigation concludes. And then? Linda's expression didn't change. That depends on what we find. You already know what happened. Derek's voice cracked. You have the video. Why do you need an investigation? Because there are 3 prior complaints against you in our system, all settled quietly, all involving similar behavior patterns. Derek's face went white. We need to determine if this is an isolated incident. Linda paused. Or if we've been protecting someone we shouldn't have. The second lawyer spoke up. You'll surrender your store keys, employee badge, and company phone before you leave this building. This is insane. I've given this company 15 years. And in those 15 years, how many people did you harass? Humiliate? Assault? Silence. Derek couldn't answer. Because they both knew. He signed the paper, hands shaking. Surrendered his keys, his badge, his authority. Everything that made him someone. The lawyers escorted him to the elevator. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. When the doors closed, Derek was alone. Suspended, powerless, exposed. By the time he reached the lobby, his phone was buzzing. Not corporate, personal phone. Text from his ex-wife. Just saw the news. Unbelievable, even for you. News? He opened Google. The top result made his blood freeze. Midtown Supermart manager suspended after assaulting pregnant customer. Posted 20 minutes ago. Local news, already trending. Someone had leaked it. Derek scrolled through comments. Hundreds of them. Fire him. Press charges. This is disgusting. And then, halfway down a comment that stopped him cold. My mom worked under this guy. He made her life hell for 2 years. Glad someone finally exposed him. More replies piled up beneath it. Same, he called me lazy in front of customers. He accused me of stealing. I quit because of him. He's been doing this for years. Derek stood on the sidewalk outside corporate headquarters. Alone, watching his entire world collapse in real time. And somewhere in Oakmont Ridge, Naomi Williams was reading the same comments. Smiling. Not because she was cruel, but because justice, real justice, was finally happening. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. This story's about to go nuclear. By Wednesday morning, Derek Collins was everywhere. Not famous, infamous. Brianna's video had been shared 40,000 times. Local news picked it up, then regional outlets, then national. The footage was damning. Derek's face twisted in contempt, his hand grabbing Naomi's arm, the slap, her stumble, the crowd's shocked silence. All of it, crystal clear, no context needed. The comments section became a courtroom. This man should be in jail. 8 months pregnant and he puts hands on her? Monster. I hope she sues him into oblivion. Facebook groups formed overnight. Justice for Naomi Williams had 12,000 members by noon. Reddit threads dissected every frame of the video. Amateur lawyers debated charges, assault, battery, civil rights violations. Twitter was brutal. Someone found Derek's personal profile photos of him at company events, smiling, shaking hands with executives. The contrast was jarring. This is the face of workplace abuse. 15 years of this? How many victims? Derek's inbox filled with messages, dozens, then hundreds. Hate mail, threats, former employees sharing their stories publicly now that someone had broken the silence. He called me a thief in front of my kids. He made racist comments constantly. HR did nothing. He fired my sister for attitude problems when she reported him. Each story confirmed what Naomi already knew. Derek wasn't just a bad manager. He was a serial abuser. And the company had protected him. Local news stations camped outside Midtown Supermart, interviewed shoppers. Employees quit on camera. I can't work for a company that let this happen, one cashier said, voice shaking. The Riverside Heights community rallied. Boycott threats, protest plans, petitions demanding Derek's termination. Midtown Supermart's corporate social media went silent. No statements, no apologies. Just quiet panic behind closed doors. Derek sat in his apartment one-bedroom rental in a forgettable complex, scrolling through the wreckage of his reputation. Every refresh brought more condemnation, more exposure, more people who'd suffered under him finally speaking up. He'd spent 15 years believing he was untouchable. 48 hours to learn he was wrong. His phone rang, unknown number. He answered, "Hello? Mr. Collins, this is Trevor Mann from Channel 7 News. We're running a story on workplace abuse at Midtown Supermart and would like your comment." Derek hung up. Then he smashed his phone against the wall. It didn't help, because the damage was done, and Naomi Williams hadn't said a single word publicly. She didn't have to. The truth was doing all the talking. Desperation makes people dangerous. Derek spent Thursday morning with his own lawyer, a cheap one, pulled from Google reviews, crafting a counter-narrative. "We need to flip this," Derek insisted. "Make her the problem." The lawyer, Marcus Reed, worn briefcase, tired eyes, looked skeptical. The video is pretty damning. Videos don't show everything. She knocked over displays. Twice. Was confrontational. I was just trying to maintain order. You hit her. I moved her. She's exaggerating the injury for sympathy. Marcus sighed. And her being pregnant? Irrelevant. She used it as a shield, playing victim when she was causing chaos. It was weak, desperate, but Derek was drowning. He needed something to hold on to. By Friday afternoon, a statement appeared on Derek's Facebook page, public, defiant, reckless. I've been unfairly targeted and publicly destroyed for doing my job. The woman in question was disruptive, careless, and confrontational. I maintained store safety as trained. The assault claim is exaggerated for financial gain. This is a setup by someone with money and connections who wants to destroy an honest working man. I will fight these false accusations. The post went live at 3:47 p.m. By 4 p.m., it had 200 comments. None of them supportive. You hit a pregnant woman. That's not maintaining safety. Setup? There's literal video evidence, you clown. Hope she takes everything you have. But Derek wasn't done. He gave an interview to a fringe online outlet, the kind that thrived on alternative perspectives and conspiracy theories. He doubled down, called Naomi entitled, said she was weaponizing her husband's wealth, claimed he was the real victim of a coordinated attack. People with money think they can ruin lives, he said on camera. But I won't be silenced. The interview was posted Saturday morning. Within 2 hours, it was everywhere. Not because people supported Derek, because it was spectacularly, catastrophically stupid. Legal analysts dissected it. He just handed her more evidence. Former prosecutors weighed in. Never talk when you're under investigation. Even Derek's own lawyer reportedly sent a furious email. Stop talking. But it was too late. Derek had just made Naomi's case even stronger, and she hadn't lifted a finger. In Oakmont Ridge, Vanessa Torres watched the interview with her legal team. Then she smiled. He just destroyed himself. She pulled out her phone, texted Naomi. Did you see this? Naomi replied immediately. I did. Perfect timing. Let's move. Monday morning, Vanessa Torres filed an amended complaint. Not just against Derek Collins, against Midtown Supermart Corporate. The new document was 23 pages. It included Derek's Facebook post, his interview, every self-incriminating word he'd spoken publicly. But it also included something devastating: internal corporate emails. How Vanessa obtained them remained unclear. Whistleblower, maybe. Disgruntled HR employee. Didn't matter. What mattered was the content. Email 1. March 2023. Derek Collins complaint filed. Recommends small settlement. NDA. Standard protocol. Email 2. August 2023. Second Collins complaint. Pattern concerning but termination would trigger wrongful dismissal risk. Settle again. Email 3. January 2024. Third complaint against Collins. Legal suggests final written warning. Mandatory sensitivity training. 3 complaints. 3 times corporate chose protection over accountability. The amended complaint didn't just target Derek's assault. It targeted the system that enabled him. Corporate negligence. Hostile work environment. Pattern of discrimination. Failure to protect customers and employees. Midtown Supermart's legal team received the filing at 9:15 a.m. By 9:30 a.m., emergency meetings were convened. By 10 a.m., they knew they were in serious trouble. This wasn't just bad press anymore. This was massive liability. Meanwhile, Samuel Hayes made his first public move. Not loud, not theatrical, just strategic. He contacted the board members of 3 nonprofits where Midtown Supermart executives also served. Quiet conversations, professional courtesy. Just want to make you aware of the situation involving my wife. Thought you should know before it becomes more public. Translation: choose sides carefully. By Tuesday, Two Midtown Supermart executives had quietly resigned from their nonprofit positions. Damage control, distancing themselves. The ripple effect was beginning. Wednesday morning, a press conference was announced. Not by Derek, not by Midtown Supermart, by Vanessa Torres, on behalf of Naomi Williams. The location, downtown Riverside Heights Community Center. The time, 2 p.m. Derek saw the announcement online. His stomach dropped. She was going public, officially. He called Marcus Reed, panicking. "What do I do?" "Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Do not respond. Do not post. Do not even think about talking. But they're going to destroy me." "Derek." Marcus's voice was exhausted. "They already have. Anything you say now just makes the settlement worse." Derek hung up, stared at his laptop screen, at Naomi's name in the press release. Calm, composed, in control. Everything he used to be. Everything she'd taken from him. Except she hadn't taken anything. She'd just revealed what was already there. A bully, an abuser, a man who thought power meant permission. And now the world knew it too. What happens at the press conference will end Derek's career forever. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The community center was packed. Local media, national outlets, independent journalists, community members who'd shopped at Midtown Supermart for years. And standing at the podium, composed and elegant in a navy dress, Naomi Williams. Vanessa stood beside her. Samuel sat in the front row. Cameras flashed. Microphones clustered like a bouquet of judgment. Naomi cleared her throat. "My name is Naomi Williams. On November 9th, I was physically assaulted while shopping for groceries. I was 8 months pregnant. The man who attacked me was Derek Collins, a store manager with 15 years of employment at Midtown Supermart." Her voice was steady, no tremor, no tears. "I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because Derek Collins is not an isolated case." She gestured to Vanessa, who pulled up a presentation on the screen behind them. In the past 3 years alone, Midtown Supermart Corporate received 47 formal complaints across 12 locations. Harassment, discrimination, assault, theft accusations without evidence, targeting of elderly customers, disabled shoppers, and minorities. The number hung in the air like smoke. 47 complaints. Of those 47 complaints, 43 were settled with NDAs and small payouts. The victims were silenced. The abusers were protected. A reporter raised her hand. "How did you obtain this information?" Vanessa stepped forward. "Through legal discovery and cooperation from current and former employees who are tired of watching this company prioritize profit over people." The screen changed. A list of names appeared. Not victims, abusers. Store managers, supervisors, district leads. All with multiple complaints. All still employed. Derek's name was third on the list. 4 complaints, 3 settlements. But he wasn't alone. The room erupted. Questions shouted over each other. Is Midtown Supermart responding? Are criminal charges being filed? What do you want to see happen? Naomi raised her hand. Silence fell. "I want accountability, not just for me. For every person who was humiliated, harassed, or harmed by employees, this company chose to protect instead of fire." She paused. "And I want policy reform, real training, real consequences, because what happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone." The press conference ended. But the damage was just beginning. Within an hour, Midtown Supermart stock dropped 4%. Within 3 hours, their CEO issued a statement promising full investigation and immediate reforms. Within 6 hours, Derek Collins received a termination letter via email. Effective immediately. No severance, no benefits, no references. Just, "Your employment is terminated for gross misconduct." Derek read it twice. Then he closed his laptop. It was over. 3 weeks later, Derek Collins sat in a courtroom in Riverside Heights. Not as a witness, as a defendant. Criminal charges had been filed, assault and battery, misdemeanor, but enough to carry jail time. His cheap lawyer sat beside him, reviewing notes with the enthusiasm of someone already planning their next case. Across the aisle, Naomi Williams, Vanessa Torres, Samuel Hayes. Calm, prepared, victorious without saying a word. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Margaret Chen, reviewed the evidence. Video footage, witness statements, medical reports, Derek's own damning social media posts and interview. She didn't deliberate long. "Mr. Collins, the evidence against you is overwhelming. You assaulted a pregnant woman in a public space, then attempted to justify your actions through a campaign of victim blaming and defamation." Derek's hands gripped the table. "I find you guilty of assault and battery. Sentencing, 6 months in county jail, suspended pending 2 years probation, 500 hours community service, mandatory anger management and sensitivity training, and a permanent restraining order prohibiting contact with Miss Williams." Derek's head dropped. "Additionally," Judge Chen continued, "I'm ordering restitution payments for medical expenses, legal fees, and emotional distress, amount to be determined in civil proceedings." She looked directly at Derek. "You used your authority to harm someone you perceived as powerless. You were wrong about her, and you will spend the next 2 years learning why power without accountability is just abuse." The gavel fell. Derek was let out. No handcuffs. Probation meant he'd walk free for now. But his freedom came with chains. No job, no references, a criminal record, a restraining order, community service, scrubbing graffiti, and picking up trash. Everything he'd built in 15 years? Gone. Naomi walked out of the courtroom into autumn sunlight. Samuel took her hand. Vanessa walked beside them. "How do you feel?" Samuel asked quietly. Naomi considered the question. Not triumphant, not vengeful, just settled. "Like justice actually happened," she said. Later that evening, Midtown Supermart announced sweeping reforms. New harassment policies, independent oversight committees, mandatory reporting, zero-tolerance enforcement. 8 managers were terminated, including 2 from the list Naomi had exposed. The company settled with 17 former employees who'd been silenced with NDAs. Real money, real apologies, real change. Not perfect, but progress. Naomi sat in her living room, baby kicking gently against her ribs. She placed a hand on her belly. "Your mom didn't let them win," she whispered, "and neither will you." Outside, the neighborhood was peaceful. Inside, Naomi Williams had reclaimed something Derek Collins tried to take. Her dignity, her power, her voice, and she'd used all 3 to make sure he could never silence anyone again. 6 months passed. Naomi gave birth to a healthy baby girl, 8 pounds, 3 ounces. Her father's eyes, her mother's determination. They named her Grace. Not ironic, intentional. Because grace wasn't weakness, it was strength under pressure, composure with purpose. Everything Naomi had shown Derek Collins that Saturday afternoon. One evening, while Grace slept in her bassinet, Naomi scrolled through her phone. The story had faded from headlines. As stories do, but the impact remained. Midtown Supermart had overhauled their entire HR system, third-party audits, anonymous reporting hotlines, real consequences for misconduct. 17 employees who'd been silenced now had their settlements, their voices, their dignity restored. Derek Collins was working at a warehouse on the outskirts of Bakersfield. Night shift, minimum wage, no authority over anyone. He'd tried applying to other retail positions. His record followed him everywhere. Assault conviction, terminated for gross misconduct. Nobody wanted that liability. He'd created his own prison, brick by brick, insult by insult, slap by slap. Naomi didn't follow his life closely, didn't need to. Justice wasn't about obsession, it was about resolution. Samuel walked into the nursery, carrying 2 mugs of tea. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, sitting beside her. "How quickly things can change," Naomi said softly. "One moment you're just shopping for groceries. The next, You're fighting for basic respect. You did more than fight. You changed an entire system. Naomi looked at Grace, tiny fingers curled in sleep. I did it so she wouldn't have to, she said quietly. Samuel kissed her forehead. She's lucky to have you. Naomi smiled. Not because everything was perfect. The world still had Derek Collinses in it, people who mistook power for permission, authority for immunity. But now there was precedent, proof that silence could be broken, that victims could become victors, that standing up calmly, strategically, relentlessly could create real change. Somewhere in Bakersfield, Derek Collins loaded boxes onto pallets. His back ached, his hands were calloused, his ego was shattered. And every night, he thought about the pregnant woman in the cream coat, the one he'd underestimated, the one who taught him the hardest lesson of his life. Some people don't just survive humiliation, they weaponize it, and they never, ever forget. Naomi set down her phone, picked up Grace gently, whispered into her daughter's ear, "Never let anyone make you small, and if they try, show them exactly who you are." Grace yawned, settled against her mother's chest, and in that quiet moment, Naomi Williams knew. She'd won, not just the case, but something bigger. Her power, her voice, her future. Everything Derek tried to take, everything she'd reclaim. What would you have done in Naomi's position? Drop your thoughts below, and if this story moved you, hit subscribe for more tales of justice, karma, and people who refuse to stay silent.